And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, over the weekend, even more bombshells dropping about the scandal going on with Karen Bass and the Palisades Fire After Action report after it's discovered that she hired a PR firm that's explicit mission was to make sure that the After Action report did not hurt her reputation.
In any normal world, this would be the end of her campaign, but not here in the insane asylum.
The PR firm also had a list of reporters that they said should not be talked to when they break the story.
Do we know who's on the list?
One of them, notably, is Gigi Graciette of Fox 11, who was the one where Kristen Crowley admitted that Karen Bass cut the fire budget.
Ooh, spicy. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a former member of the California Senate, former member of the California Assembly, and former member of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, Senator Roy Ashburn. Welcome.
Hi, John. Great to be with you.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And let's start out with the news coming out of the California Democratic Convention that took place in San Francisco over the weekend, where Katie Porter, who came in fifth place when the delegates voted to decide who they would endorse for governor here in California, decided that she would try to create a moment that would go viral by bringing her whiteboard out there, writing something vulgar on it about President Trump, and trying to get the audience to repeat it with her. I think she was expecting to be the story of the convention, and maybe she was, but I don't know if she was for the right reasons. The response to her from the crowd was relatively lukewarm. These are the same people who voted for four other candidates ahead of her. What do you make of the stunt that she tried to pull, and what do you make of the reaction that she got?
Well, what it shows is the Democrat Party, even in California, as liberal and as extreme as it is deeply torn between those whose entire platform is hate Trump or those who actually want to talk about governing. So you'll notice that a candidate with considerable credentials, Betty Yee, the former state controller, has been showing very poorly in the polls, and yet when the straw poll was taken at the convention, came in second place. And so you can see that within even the party leadership, which I guess you can call the Democrat Party insiders who met at the convention in San Francisco, that they are deeply divided between the hate Trump crowd and those who actually want to talk about solutions.
When the candidates running for governor had their first debate, Swalwell didn't attend, Porter didn't attend, Bianco didn't attend, and you had some candidates who were there who just tried to make everything about Donald Trump the way that Katie Porter did at the convention. I thought the two who came off the most knowledgeable were Betty Yee and Tony Thurmond, two candidates who come from California state government. We know that Porter, for example, and Swalwell came from the federal government. Becerra came from the Department of Health and Human Services. Villaraigosa came from Los Angeles city government. Steyer is a billionaire. So the two who, I guess, on paper should be the most knowledgeable were, and it looks like that was rewarded at this convention, at least in the case of Betty Yee. And there are some people left in the Democratic Party who think that knowing something about the subject matter is a better look than being profane and yelling and screaming about Trump.
Well, especially when you contrast it with the current governor. This guy has shown such an inability to address the real problems in the state that he spends all his time on the national platform and trying to position himself for governor. And he's not doing very well at that. Witness his trying to relate to Black people over the weekend. But you're right. The people of California, real people, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or independent, I think people recognize our state has very, very serious problems. And those who show seriousness and some background and knowledge and offer up some solutions, I think are going to do very, very well. And if Betty Yee can finish in second place in the straw poll among the Democrat insiders who are very extreme, I think that says something about a better prospect when you take that same approach to the broader audience of actual California Democrat voters.
Let's talk about the possibility of two Republicans making it to the November ballot. We no longer have close primaries. It's a top two primary, and it doesn't matter what party you're a member of or if you're a member of no party at all. If you finish first, you finish second, you make it to the November ballot. According to recent polls, if the election were held today, we would have a scenario where two Republicans made it to the November ballot and the Democrats would get shut out of the general election. Obviously, the California Democratic Party does not want that to happen. The problem, as I see it, maybe you see it differently, I don't know, is that not only is their field wide, but their field is clumped together, where if you had a bunch of people at 0% or 1%, it would be easy to say, okay, there's no path for you, get out. But their problem is you have a handful of them that are between, let's say, 4 and 12%, which statistically speaking, when you're looking at a poll with a margin of error of 4.5%, you're talking about a field that is essentially tied with one another. And when you look at their quote-unquote front runner, who I guess at this moment in time is Eric Swalwell, who, according to Michael Trujillo, who's a Democratic strategist, has a lot of skeletons that are going to be coming out that are going to disqualify him as a candidate, there's going to be opportunity for so many of these Democrats who are currently running to have a moment in the sunlight and to move up the food chain and potentially make it to that November ballot, particularly when two of the most influential unions on the Democratic side of the aisle, the SEIU and the CTA, haven't made an endorsement yet. Because if they're looking at it, when John Fleischman came on this program last week and suggested that this could happen, where if they say, okay, Tom Steyer's here, Katie Porter's here, Eric Swalwell's here, we can't control them. But if we decide that the CTA and the SEIU are going to get behind Betty Yee or Tony Thurmond, and we're going to put all of our chips on them and spend all of our money on them, and they get elected, they owe everything to us. So I don't see how you tell any of these candidates to get out and do it in an intellectually honest way, saying you have no chance, because the way I see it, all of them theoretically have a chance at making the November ballot.
I think you explained it extraordinarily well, John. That's exactly the case. And that's the reason there are so many candidates on the Democrat side, is that any one of them could make it. And so if you're from San Jose and you have very, very limited name identification, you jump in the race. And so anything could happen. And the Democrat Party leadership wanted this open primary style in California. It's among the many reforms that they pushed over the last 40 years to change the voting system in our state and probably to add some very serious elements of corruption. This may come back to bite them big time because Sheriff Bianco and Hilton could well emerge as the number one and number two finishers in the primary, and you would be electing a Republican in the November election.
Let's say these numbers hold and it's not late February, it's late April, it's late May, and we're looking at an election where the most likely ending is that a Republican governor is elected. Who is the muscle within the Democratic Party who can get on the phone or get in the smoke-filled room and tell these candidates to drop out? Someone that they will listen to. Is it Newsom, who seems totally checked out? Is it Obama, who seems to weigh in on occasion, but not regularly? Is it Nancy Pelosi, who's in her final term as a member of Congress and no longer the Speaker of the House? Who is it that has the ability to say, it's not your turn, get out, and they'll listen?
That's a great question, because the real power players within the Democrat Party are no longer here. John Burton, who passed away not too long ago, would have been that kind of individual with, a very, very strong position to speak from and to act from, to convince people or to force people to do something. Pelosi's power is gone. Once she announced her retirement pending and no longer Speaker of the House, Obama's influence in California, it's diminished over time. Gavin Newsom, no. Even among Democrats. So it's a great question. If there is such a power. Now, the power probably lies with those who have money and have a track record of having significant influence and success in electing people to office. And you identified a couple of those big players in the previous question.
Here's the problem even with that. Now, maybe the unions and the power players within the Democratic Party could lean on Antonio Villaraigosa, who gets his money from the traditional sources, or Javier Becerra, who gets his money from the traditional sources. But look at Tom Steyer. The guy is a self-funding billionaire. He is the number one donor to his campaign, and this is his hobby, and I don't see him changing his mind anytime soon. Then you have people like Katie Porter and Eric Swalwell. They get their money from small dollar donations from people who watch them have these viral moments on C-SPAN or on MSNBC or CNN, where every time they go on and say something nasty about Trump or say something outrageous, they ring the cash register. That money isn't coming from the unions. That money's coming from little old ladies watching Rachel Maddow at 11 o'clock at night, who then give them $25. It just so happens there's a lot of them. I don't see how you cut off their money.
I agree with you. It's the Bernie Sanders effect. That's how Bernie's campaigns have been financed, from people who are hysterical about their point of view. And those two candidates are definitely appealing to that source. The question is, what does Steyer do? Does he pump in enough money to edge front runners out of the way? I think it's a possibility, especially if the electorate is up in the air about all of them.
If we end up with a scenario where there's two Republicans on the November ballot, how big of an earthquake will that be in Sacramento?
Oh my gosh, it'd be beyond description. It's so. First of all, it seems improbable, but given the rules as they created them, they being the Democrats, it can happen. And you've got such a crowded field among the Democrats, all split up, each taking a chunk, all of them in this for their, with a great unwillingness to back away and to yield to anyone else. It would absolutely have it's an effect that would be just profound. But I don't think California is beyond it. This state has traditionally been kind of middle of the road conservative. Yes, the demographics have changed, but folks are feeling the real effect of one-party rule in our state over these last several years in particular, and it's hurting people. The economy is just lousy here. Crime is sky high. Schools are just deplorable. Our infrastructure, even the price of gasoline now, can be compared very readily with all the other states, and we're in a league of our own. and not a good league.
As someone who knows California government and local government about as good as anyone in the state, if we ended up with a governor who held the line against these excesses and really put their foot down on excessive spending, put their foot down on all the woke nonsense, put their foot down on all the soft on crime initiatives, how long do you think it would take before we started seeing real dramatic improvement?
Oh, I think right away. Right away. I think there is a hunger for the kind of reforms you just outlined. And I think you'd see an effect right away. I just saw that revenue estimates for the state are 14% above expectations. So I mean, revenue coming in it seems just fine, but the spending is so absurdly out of control. And so, I mean, just the act of having sound budgeting would have a profound effect throughout state government and trickles down into the counties and the cities that actually deliver the services.
Matt Mahan is the mayor of San Jose, who's running as a Democrat who is not focusing the campaign on Trump, but focusing on the problems facing California right now. I'm not so sure that there are a majority of Democrats or even a plurality of Democrats in California who even are interested in that message right now. So far, he has been suffering in the polls. He's been in single digits. He hasn't hit first or second place yet. Do you think if there is a scenario where we end up with a November election with a Democrat who's way out on the left, like Tom Steyer or Katie Porter, and one Republican, whether it be Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco, that wing of the Democratic Party, although not a majority, could swing to the Republican, and we could see a race that could go either way?
Well, that's a tough one. A Republican winning in a scenario like that, I just see is so difficult. I just don't see it happening that way. It could be a close race, but I just don't see that happening.
All right. Roy Ashburn, former member of the California Senate, former member of the California Assembly, former member of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. Thanks so much for stopping by on this Monday. A pleasure as always.
Thank you very much, John. Great to be with you and your wonderful listeners.
Let's go to Sam in L.A. Sam, hello.
Hey, what's going on, John? How you and Randy doing?
Good.
Oh, okay. Hey, look, I want to ask you, John, okay, you always talk about people who say stuff about Trump. You jump on Katie Porter or whoever they say, all they do is talk about Trump, blame Trump and this and that there. Trump has no respect for nobody or nothing. You know it and I know it. I never heard you say anything against Trump. You remember a few years ago when he gave that speech about when he was talking about John McCain, he said, John McCain is not no hero of mine. My heroes don't get captured. All them idiots and stupid fools, they laughed and clapped and never. He ain't never even been in the Boy Scouts. So here you the president of the United States. Why would you say something like that against a man who's been in the service, in Vietnam and stuff? Explain that.
Well, okay, so here's the deal. So the focus on Katie Porter was about the swearing. Trump swears when he gives speeches frequently. The difference is that's within his character. There are people who just swear a lot. John Burton was referenced in the last segment, the Democratic chair of the Democratic Party in California, senator. The guy swears all the time. That's in his character. Gavin Newsom swears all the time. That's in his character. What she did when she came out with that whiteboard, that was a stunt. And that was a stunt that was designed to become the story of the convention. That was her intention. That's why she did it. It's fine if she decides to make that choice. I just don't think it's a good look. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you can also listen to us on the weekends in the Central Valley.
If 3 hours a day, 5 days a week isn't enough for you of this stuff, I got more for you. You can listen to a specialized replay of the Fix California Hour that airs Saturday at noon on our sister station, KMJ in Fresno. It's Saturdays at noon. You can listen on 580 on the AM dial, 105.9. That is a massive station. It has a huge signal. So that's Saturdays at noon, the Fix California Hour replay on KMJ.
We are learning new information about the effort to water down the after-action fire report on the fire that took out Pacific Palisades. And Randy, none of it looks good for the mayor.
Especially when you find out that the LAFD hired a PR firm to look at the report, and a confidential memo was sent out to city staffers saying the number one priority of this report is to protect Karen Bass's reputation.
Seems reasonable.
For more on this, here is an interview between Marla Tejas, our friend at Fox 11, and one of the reporters at the LA Times that broke this story.
A new report from the LA Times uncovers a confidential memo showing the Los Angeles Fire Department worked to protect Mayor Karen Bass from criticism over the city's response to the Palisades fire. It details efforts to manage media coverage and adjust findings in an after-action report. Well, tonight, I spoke with one of the reporters behind this investigation. I asked him about the biggest takeaway from his reporting.
The day before the after-action report came out, their priority in this strategic plan was to protect the reputations of the mayor, the city, and the LAFD.
Of course, not actually get to the truth of what happened here, because the truth is embarrassing for the mayor, the city, and the LAFD.
And keep in mind, the LA Times had this story some time ago, and the mayor came out and accused them of spreading fake news. And then when the residents of the Palisades would bring this up, she would say they were spreading fake news too. And lo and behold, it turns out to be true.
It was a very elaborate plan, 13 pages long. And this sort of comes on the, this sort of dovetails with our other reporting about how the after-action report had been watered down to, lessen any potential criticism of the mayor, the city, and the department leadership. So,
by the way, this is the entire reason why Kristen Crowley was fired. It had nothing to do with any incompetence she showed when it came to the Palisades fire. It had to do with two things. One, that she spoke to Fox 11 saying that the budget was cut. But two, most importantly, that she was asked about doing an after-action report. And because Karen Bass could tell that Kristen Crowley wasn't going to play along with the mayor is nowhere to blame here, that's why she got fired. She got replaced with Ronnie Villanueva, whose entire job was to make sure Karen Bass didn't look bad.
And keep in mind, one of the first things he said when he became chief of the fire department is that it doesn't matter who tried to water down this report. He doesn't care. He just wants to move forward.
So in a way, this was not a surprise, but it was certainly an important finding that this was actually the top priority in this plan, built around the release of the after-action report, which was to protect these reputations.
Right.
That's what's important. Not figuring out how we make sure something like this never happens again. Not figuring out what are the structural failures at LAFD. It's how do we make sure the mayor, who wasn't even here, doesn't look bad.
And if you are a resident of the Palisades, or you're a resident, let's say, of some other neighborhood in Los Angeles, and you're worried about them finding out just exactly what went wrong and making sure that they don't repeat those same mistakes again, that's not what you're going to get from this report. This report is not looking at the failures of the city so that we don't repeat them. The entire point of this report was to protect the mayor.
Right. As you say, quote, reputational harm. What's been the response from the mayor? And we should note that we did reach out to the mayor for our own response. What did you find?
Oh, Marla, you're not on the approved list.
No, she's not.
There was actually, and they'll talk about this here, there's a list that was put attached to this memo that said, make sure that Karen Bass doesn't look bad, of reporters that you should talk to about this and reporters you shouldn't talk to about this.
Oh, my.
But her response was that she repeated her denials that she had nothing to do with watering down the after action report. She pointed to the PR firm that was working with the fire department as the driving force behind this. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Why does the LAFD need a PR firm?
Yeah, they don't have to get elected. They're appointed. The mayor gets elected. Public opinion impacts her.
But nothing she said has in any way challenged our reporting factually.
The 13 pages that you've shared it, so I'm looking at it myself. What struck you the most out of those 13 pages in terms of trying to protect reputation?
Well, it struck just that statement itself was the lead-off statement in the report, in the plan. That was the purpose of the plan, to manage news coverage of the after-action report to protect the reputations of the mayor, the city, and the LAFD leadership.
And one of the things this PR firm did in their mission to protect Karen Bass was change certain language in the report, not calling the Lockman fire that turned into the Palisades fire a rekindling it, calling it a holdover fire.
That was by, appropriately so, it topped the plan. It was the top line of the plan. So that was certainly the biggest takeaway.
And then let me get your thoughts on the fact that it actually, you mentioned that they hired an outside firm to handle this and to prepare them for questioning from reporters. They go by agency and they list reporters who could be conducting these questions to the mayor and city leadership. LA Times is part of the list. You're named. They deem reporters as neutral or negative, meaning not friendly to the press.
I'm going to guess all the KNX reporters are listed as friendly.
Yeah, where does Spectrum fit?
Or pardon me, to their goals. You were among the LA Times team to be deemed negative. Our Gigi Graciette, who had a really remarkable interview with former Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, she was deemed negative, to be negative to the city. And
do you hear that? This is what goes on in the city of Los Angeles with our current leadership. They have a list of reporters they will not talk to. It doesn't matter who they are, or it doesn't matter what the story is about, because Gigi Graciette got the fire chief to admit that Karen Bass cut the budget. Now she's dead to the city. Someone who's been reporting on morning shows in this city forever.
And here's what they're doing. In a one-party city and a one-party state, if your job is to cover City Hall, or your job is to cover fires or crime and police actions in the city, and that city, as a point of policy, says, don't talk to them, don't give them information, don't allow them to do their job, you have one of two options as a reporter. You can continue to do your job and try to find other means of doing it, in which case your job is a lot more difficult than going straight to the source, or you can learn your lesson and you can get on the same page as everyone else, and then they'll make life easy on you, and then you can do your job. Because here's the thing. If your job is to report on City Hall and you never have any stories because they won't tell you anything, at a certain point, you're going to get fired, you're going to get laid off, you're going to get demoted. This is the power that they have over the press corps. And now it's not just a theory that we're talking about. It's not just something that we think is happening. They put it in black and white, and we know this is going on, and that is why.
The mayor, your thoughts on that?
I really don't have any thoughts specifically about that. We're reporting the truth, verified facts. The mayor has made it clear she's not happy with a lot of our reporting. The last story we did, or the story before that, she said it was fabricated. It wasn't fabricated. We are going where the facts lead us. And
what a novel change for the LA Times, and I'm glad to see it.
Well, the moment that Patrick Soon-Shiong started leaning on them, it's taken a while, and it certainly hasn't spread across the entire newsroom, but there are elements of that paper that seem to know that this is what the ownership wants.
And we're revealing these things because they're very important, not just to the victims of the fire, but to the city itself. And the mayor has continued to refuse to sit down with us and do an interview about all these things.
Oh, you're dead to her now, LA Times.
Oh, you're never going to get that.
The negative thing isn't really, to me, an issue in this.
So there you go. The LAFD gets a PR firm. The PR firm's mission statement in releasing the after action report is to make sure that it does not harm the reputation of Karen Bass. They changed language to make the city less liable, even though we all know what really happened. And they have a list of reporters that they will not talk to because they might ask a real question.
We should try to find that list and go through it on the air.
It's definitely somewhere. I can text Marla. She has it.
Let's get that list. I'm curious because I frequently say that if you want coverage that makes the mayor look good, it's typically the LA Times, although this is an aberration, public radio, Spectrum, KNX. If you want critical coverage, it's most of the television channels, us and other talk radio. And there are a few reporters, Daniel Gus, who reports on City Hall, CeCe Woods, who reports on the fires and what's gone on at the county level, certainly Jennifer Van Laar in Red State. There's a handful of us that exist that will tell you what's actually going on. But the mainstream media that covers that city, we have long suspected is in bed with the mayor. And let's find out who's on that list. That's something that I'm very curious about. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, you were able to get your hands on the list.
Yes, I had to go through the LA Times' paywall. Marla was going to send it to me, but she's currently driving to Fox 11. So when you look at the document, which I should post this out on our Twitter. Anyone can see this. It's an open document. The LA Times got it through a public records request. So during the break, I'll put it on my social media, and John will retweet it at Johnny Don't Like. Okay. Embargoed media briefings. Task. The lead will offer embargoed briefings with Chief Villanueva to help control the narrative, contextualize the report, reinforce lessons learned, and share key actions improvements being implemented. And then it has identified press in order of priority. And the first press that they really want to talk to is ABC7, and they have highlighted Josh Haskell. I'm not sure what the highlights mean, but that's the first organization they want to talk to about this. Then they go to the LA Times and they write in Richard Winton, Paul Pringle, who was the guy that did the interview. Oh, wait, maybe the highlight means to who you don't talk to. That would make sense. Okay, because Aline Chekmatian is the reporter who broke all these stories with the LA Times. They don't like her. And then it says Noah Goldberg, he's highlighted, and it says negative.
Was he the one that was on with Marla that we just played?
That was Paul Pringle, but apparently now he'll be on the negative list. So Josh Haskell is highlighted. I'm going to guess highlighted means don't talk to them. You know how I can tell you? Because KNX, Craig Figner, and Pete Demetrio are not highlighted, but Steve Gregory is. On KCAL CBS, they have listed Ross Palumbo, and it says negative.
But he's not highlighted, though.
He's not highlighted. Again, I'm confused about what a lot of this stuff means, but it is very, very interesting. KTLA lists Annie Rose Ramos as neutral. The one that's most notable here is Fox 11, Gigi Graciette, negative. Gigi Graciette, the Fox 11 reporter for Good Day LA.
Because she was the one that interviewed the chief that they canned.
Let's see. On NBC4, Robert Kovacic is listed as neutral. This is really, really, really bizarre.
Yeah, it would be great if we knew someone who was briefed on this who could explain to us what the highlighting means.
I like how KFI is in the same group with us now, where we don't even count as having a news department. They're not even on here, and neither are we.
What are you going to do? All right. So now we're finding out that the Palisades victims are getting billed for brush clearance.
Brush clearance on their burned out lots. For more, here's Fox 11 and Matthew Seedorf.
New outrage in fire-ravaged Pacific Palisades. Survivors of last year's wildfires say they're now facing bills for brush clearance on lots where there are no homes anymore. Matthew Seedorf tonight with a story you'll see only on Fox 11.
This is one of the properties where the owner received one of those bills, and you can see they don't feel like there's a whole lot of brush back here, mostly just dirt, and they're angry. In fire-devastated Pacific Palisades,
This is one of those stories that shows that Shang Tao was right all along, people.
The bureaucracy is real.
This city is so stupid, they don't realize that they're sending bills to fire victims that have no brush on their burned out lots.
So the city burns their home down. Your home is now a pile of rubble. And then the same entity is now fighting you because the rubble is now there.
That's L.A.
In fire-devastated Pacific Palisades, another punch to the gut for families struggling to recover.
It's one final blow, after they screwed us over, they're still trying to take money.
This is the same city where Karen Bass promised that she would waive the permits for all the rebuilds in the Palisades, and they still haven't passed it in the city council.
No, she's done nothing for them. In fact, I believe she hates the fire victims because the fire victims won't shut up, and she is now blaming them for her contested reelection.
Almost 14 months since the deadly fire, and some residents are now receiving bills like this from the city of L.A., charging them $31 for alleged non-compliance with brush clearance rules.
I was a little astonished because there's no house and there's no brush.
Even on lots like Carol Sanborn's, where her home of more than 40 years was wiped away.
Well, I do know of several other people who've gotten the notice, and a lot of people are just angry about it.
Everything that you've lost, $31 is...
It's nothing, but, I'm not paying it. It's the principle of it.
She shouldn't pay it.
I wouldn't pay it.
Other neighbors also receiving the fines for brush clearance. So where's the brush?
There isn't any, really. It's mostly dirt.
And ash.
Where a house used to be until the city screwed things up.
Christine Martinez with construction almost done.
I'm sure they didn't come out and inspect it because there's nothing to be in compliance or out of compliance for.
So on the bill it says to call this number if you have any questions about the invoice. Let's give it a try.
The mailbox of the...
Have I mentioned before that Matthew Seedorf is currently my favorite reporter in L.A.?
He's great.
Let's give it a try.
The mailbox of the person you are calling is currently full.
And this mayor wants re-election.
The mailbox of the person you are calling is currently full and cannot accept new messages. Please try your call again later.
So residents with questions about their bill can't even leave a message because it says the mailbox is full.
Their voicemail is full. Can't leave a message. So the next thing was they said to write. So I wrote. That was last week. I haven't heard anything.
Are you going to pay it?
No, have no intention of paying it.
Carol writing back to the city this letter with red ink.
I wrote, this is insulting and cruel. We have no house and we have no brush.
A spokesperson.
This is unbelievable. Except if you lived in the city of L.A., it's completely believable.
And Karen Bass thinks she deserves another 4 years because, she hates Trump more than anyone.